offering our collective salutations to the Almighty, revered elders, devotees from across the globe, staff and students, good morning and welcome to the One World, One Family World Cultural Festival. The great Italian thinker Leonardo da Vinci once said, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication." These words reflect the essence of Italy, a nation where beauty is found in balance, harmony, and thoughtful living. From the ancient streets of Rome to the artistic heritage of Florence and the calm canals of Venice, Italy stands as a bridge between history and modern life. Its people are known for their creativity, warmth, and deep sense of community. As we celebrate Italy today, let us appreciate its quiet lesson that true culture lies not only in great art or monuments, but in the simple, graceful way people live and connect with one another. As part of the Universal Wisdom for a United World lecture series, it is our honor to welcome Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul, the director of Tibet House, the cultural center of His Holiness, the Dalai Lama in New Delhi since 2011. A scholar of great depth and humility, Venerable Geshe completed over 15 years of rigorous training in Buddhist philosophy, earning his Geshe Lampara degree in 2002, followed by advanced tantric studies. His scholarship and insight soon led him to Cambridge University, where he was a visiting fellow at Girton College, refining his English and bridging ancient wisdom with modern intellect. Venerable Geshe has served as a translator and interpreter for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, both in India and abroad, and has collaborated on several acclaimed works that explore the meeting point of Buddhism, philosophy, and science. His writings and translations are studied in leading institutions worldwide. Known for his rare ability to integrate spiritual profundity with scientific reasoning, Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul continues to inspire countless seekers across the globe with his lucid, compassionate, and deeply insightful teachings. Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul will address us online.
Darshi Dilek, Namaste, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all the participants. It is indeed a great joy for me to be a part of this program hosted by Prashanti Balamantri Trust, One World, One Family Mission, and that too to commemorate the 100th birth anniversary of Bhagavan Shri Sathya Sai Baba, to honor his life of selfless love and universal service. So, welcome you all, and I'm so glad that, as I said earlier, I'm so glad that to be a part of this. And my topic is the cultivation of compassion as the foundation of humanity or human unity, and understanding of interdependency and universal responsibility to save the humanity as a one family. First of all, let me begin my talk by asking a question to all the participants, both myself and each one of us. What is the purpose of life? What's the purpose of life? So why I'm asking this question is that oftentimes failing to see the purpose of life well, there's a tendency for the humanity to easily go into conflicts when we're driven by the impulse. And likewise, when we're driven by driven by the fundamentalist spirit. So, what's the purpose of life? All of us need to ponder upon this question. And I remember His Holiness the Dalai Lama, when His Holiness was invited to attend university to give a public address years ago, perhaps 2008. At the end of the presentation or the talk, to the question answer session, a young girl asked this question: "What is the purpose of life, Your Holiness?" And His Holiness, without any second thought, said that we live on hope. We hope for happiness. Therefore, the purpose of life is genuine happiness. Genuine happiness is the purpose of life. So, this is His Holiness' response. And amongst the people, we see that there are the believers, non-believers. Amongst the believers, the believer in God, creator God, and believer in law of karma. So the question is that because that this program is particularly dedicated to the cultivation of the world as one family, as is commonly being heard wherever you go, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. That's a great inspiring spirit, which I think everywhere in the world need to promote, and also that India should be the leading country, leading nation to talk about this, the world as one family, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. This is so important. Having said this, just let us, each one of us, think of what's the purpose of life. So what I said is that everybody that you see in this universe, this world, I would say, 8 billion human beings, they can be grouped into three: the believers and non-believers, to make it very simple. And the believers constitute the believers in God, created God, and believers in not necessarily the believer of created God, but believer in the law of karma. And then on the other hand, we have the non-believers who believe in this life, just this life, and then what the future is like is told unknown. Nobody can know that. So we see that there are three categories of the people. Now the question is that what's the purpose of life? If it asks each one of us, so whatever is your belief system, whether you're a believer in God or created God, or believer in law of karma, or not believing in created God but a believer in law of karma, and then the believer in just modern science, not believing in any with spirituality, just believing in this life. So whoever you are, it's very important for us finally we live on earth, and you should be happy. And for you to be happy, the world should be happy. If the world is not happy, you can't have happiness. So with this in mind, if you ask each one of these groups, just see whatever group that you belong to. See if this is your answer. Say those who believe in creator God, generally speaking, what's the purpose of life? The purpose of life is to have a communion with God, to meet with the God, ultimately to meet with God. And what about those who believe in, who don't believe in creator God, but believe in law of karma? Cause and effect, law of karma. So if you ask them, if you belong to this category, what's the purpose of life? They may say that purpose of life is eventually to achieve liberation, nirvana, moksha, or to attain full enlightenment. When the non-believers who don't believe in anything, like the pure scientists, or the pure science meaning science without integrating that with religion. So they would say that just a nice, decent life. Decent life is the purpose of life. So now the question is that there's no point in the conflicting. There's no point in fighting amongst each other. No, the communion, we should meet with God. That's our ultimate goal. And the nirvana, no point. Or just this life is too small. And then those who believe in the science. Oh, good God, who knows science? Who knows the presence of God? How do you know that? Nobody can prove that. No rebirth, nobody can prove that. So there's no point in fighting. The point is that whatever you believe in, this is what is known as the Vasudeva Kutumbaka. So where the different thoughts come into being, and then we live as one family. For example, like say a garden. If the garden everywhere it's just one flower, the red rose, red rose everywhere. It's not a garden. It's not a beautiful garden. It's a commercial the the flower shop. It's not a garden. Whereas only if the garden has varieties of flowers, then the garden becomes beautiful. That's real garden. Likewise, people with different thoughts. What's wrong? But these different thoughts should not be the reason for people to enter into fights. Rather, these different thoughts should be the reason for the people to create a beautiful garden of the humanity. So that is so important. The next question is, okay, whatever you believe in is fine. There's nothing wrong. Whatever you believe in. Say, if you, okay, finally I have to have a communion with a God, creator God, then you have to do something. You have to do something to make it happen. And if you want the salvation, enlightenment, or moksha, nirvana, again, you have to do something. Without doing something, you will never attain that. And even as a non-believer at all, again, you have to do something to make this life meaningful, to make this life decent and happy life. We have to do something. So what is do means action. We have to engage in some action. So what is the best action, the action which best make you to accomplish what you are seeking? This is the question. So, for example, say those who believe in creator God, creator God does not, according to the belief, that belief, creator God does not approve of us fighting all the time. Rather, if you practice compassion, the God is a God of mercy, God of love. Only if you practice compassion, then the God, there is a real possibility for us to have the union with the creator God. Those who believe in the rebirth concept and no creator God, but the concept of the attaining moksha, nirvana, or Buddhahood, and so forth, for them, again, you have to do something good actions, compassionate action. Then you can attain this and keep fighting, you are wrong, I'm right. The fundamentalistic, the attitude. With this, you accumulate so much of negative karma. You cannot attain your goal. And for those who believe in this life, you keep fighting with somebody else, you are very unhappy. Your blood pressure will go up, your immunity will go down. So therefore, the point is that in all three cases, the action which can really make what you aspire to be accomplished, that action should be action which be harmonious with the community. What makes your action harmonious? The best of the action that makes the, the community harmonious is the compassionate action. Action driven by compassion. You can do anything. For example, you can do some puja for Creator God, or you can do some the puja, whatever thing for your own salvation, nirvana, whatever. And you can do something, practical things for your life, for the scientists, and so forth. But with the compassion action, where the compassion is, your immunity, even from the secular context, your immunity will boost. Your immunity will become very strong and you become a very healthy person. So the people who believe in God, you should have a healthy body to get the maximum advantage to practice compassion so that you can have the meeting of communion with the God. And those who believe in moksha, nirvana, and so forth. So with the compassion action, then you can really attain those goals. And for the secular who doesn't believe in any religion, for them, you do compassion action, your immunity will boost, and your blood pressure, everything will be balanced. So that is what we're seeking. So finally, we come to know that action, appropriate action, driven by compassion, is what will make you to achieve the purpose of your life. The next question is that this purpose that we are seeking, that all three groups are seeking, this purpose. So compassion, one what we said is that that purpose is to engage in action driven by compassion to accomplish your goal. That is the purpose of life. Then this action driven by compassion, is it possible, is it really possible to be as the expansive compassion which reaches out to all? So what is said as the cultivation of compassion as the foundation of the human unity, and the Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Is it possible? This question. So according to Charles Darwin, this is not really possible. According to Charles Darwin, why not possible? Of course, he did not talk about Vasudeva Kutumbakam. He did not really reject that. But his basic, the tenet or his basic, the concept is the survival of the fittest. Survival of the fittest. So where they say survival of the fittest, meaning that we have to survive on basic emotions like attachment, anger, and fear. In fear, how can you be happy? With anger, how can you have a Vasudeva Kutumbagam? Anger means there should be two parties. One party you love and one party you don't like. You are angry about. So there should be two parties. So according to Charles Darwin, the survival of the fittest principle for the evolution, when explaining the evolution of the human beings, what it said was that the Homo sapiens came on the planet Earth 0.3 million years ago. Homo sapiens. Then we go back in time. We see that Homo sapiens, our ancestor, we keep tracking back in time. We see that 4 billion years ago, first unicellular organism came in the water, where the water came into being and the unicellular organism came into being. That was our first ancestor. And 4.6 billion years ago, the planet Earth came out of the sun. And 15 billion years ago, the whole universe, today, all the galaxies, they all came out of what is known as singularity in the form of a Big Bang. So the concept of Big Bang as a starting point of the universe. But is that the starting point? The physicists, they have great disagreement. There is the discrepancy in their points of view. There are some physicists who will say that is the starting point, the beyond which nothing really existed. It was just a singularity, what is known as the quantum vacuum, before which nothing really existed as anything. Whereas many other physicists like Professor Roger Penrose, a Nobel laureate in physics, I think 2020, 2024 or 22, he, and likewise, Professor Michio Kaku was a world-renowned physicist. So for them, no, the Big Bang is not the origin of the universe. It was the original universe within the particular context, the visible universe, yes, but there are many parts of the universe which are not visible yet, because the light from these parts of the universe, they are still yet to reach us, so that we don't know what they are like. Whereas with the visible universe, yes, visible universe within the context of 15 billion years. There was a beginning. But for example, say the one seed, you bring a seed from, let's say, Japan and plant it in India, a tree grows. But we see that this tree, the beginning of the tree is the time it was planted in India. But it can go back. We can go back. This seed came from Japan. So Japan, perhaps it came from Nigeria. We never know. So from this point of view, there's no beginning. But in a specific context of time and space, you can talk about beginning. Okay, that is one thing. So what I'm saying is that according to Charles Darwin, these emotions like attachment, anger, fear, they are the instincts. Number one, instinctive emotions, instincts. Number two, that we require these emotions for your survival of the fittest, for the talking about the human evolutionary theory. So from this, he, in a way, what he's saying is that where there's anger is a common sense. Where there's anger, you require two parties: your party, who you support, and the other party, who you try to destroy. That is the meaning of anger. So he said that the anger cannot be got rid of. You cannot reach to a level whereby anger will be zero. It's not possible, according to him. So from that point of view, is not the this what we call as the whole humanity under one umbrella as a family. Vasudeva Kutumbakam. This is not possible according to Charles Darwin. But keep in mind, it's not that he the explicitly talked about it. No, he did not talk about that. But from his basic principle of the emotions, that is not possible. But whereas in India, and also in the West, the great, brilliant teachers who came, for example, like say in the past, like say Ram and Guru Nanak, and then Buddha, Lord Mahavir, and all these great teachers came. And in the West, likewise, say the Abraham, Jesus Christ, Prophet Muhammad, Baha'u'llah, Zoroaster, the Zoroastrian. So they all the great enlightened teachers, they came to say that yes, one family is possible. One family, whole the humanity under one umbrella of one family is possible. So the question is, how is it possible? This is the question. So the thing is, unless until we're able to rationally be convinced, or the empirically that we are convinced with the empirical evidence, then our belief will just remain as a very shallow belief, where you deep inside we have some other belief system, and superficially you just mimic your the religious founder say that yes, it's possible, Vasudeva Kutumbakam is possible, but deep inside you're not sure. So for that matter, it's so important to know how this universal compassion is possible. It should not be grounded on blind faith. Where it is grounded on blind faith, the ground is very shaky. Ground is not firm. Where the ground is not firm, nothing can remain stably up there. And deep inside, you believe in something else, and superficially you say something, and it will never accomplish the purpose of the whole humanity under the umbrella of one family. So for that, the question is, how can we cultivate this universal compassion as opposed to what is presented by Charles Darwin? This question. So with this in mind, they, let me quickly share with you that in the first place, that universal compassion, just say handful of sunflower seeds, and versus handful of the handful of sand. You squeeze a handful of sand, oil comes out or not? No oil comes out. Or handful of pebbles, you squeeze, no oil comes out. Handful of sunflower seeds, squeeze, oil does come out. Oil does come out. What's the difference? For the oil to come out, there should be the potential for oil in the sunflower seeds. Whereas for the pebbles, if you squeeze this, no oil comes out, because the pebbles do not have the potential for oil. Likewise, do we have the potential for this universal compassion? If we don't have that, no matter how much you squeeze, no matter how much you talk, no matter how much you put effort, nothing will universal compassion will never come about. For example, to a great extent, what Charles Evans said is very true. Since the Homo sapiens came into being 0.3 million years ago till today, where is universal compassion? Where? The whole world is constantly under fragmentation, constantly under the conflicts, fights, wars. So tell me, at what point in time in the history of humanity that the whole world is so calm, universal compassion spreads? No, it never happened. So from that point of view, what Charles Evans said is very true. But the this is applicable to the uninformed people. What Charles Evans said is applicable, 100% applicable to the people who are not really aware of this deeper knowledge, deeper wisdom, particularly the deeper wisdom which came from India. India is an amazing country which gave birth to all these different traditions of wisdom, which allows us to see the possibility that Vasudeva Kutumbakam is possible. So how? So for this, we have to have a confidence that each one of us, we have this potential, just as the handful of sunflower seeds have the potential, it has the potential for oil to come out. Likewise for us, each one of us, we have this potential for the universal compassion. Again, the next question, how do we know that? We must learn how to ask the right question. And then you must get the right answer. You must get the complete answer. You must get the systematic answer. That's so important. Let me repeat it. We must get the correct answer. We must get the complete answer. We must get the systematic answer. That is so important for us. So with this in mind, how do we know that we have this potential for this universal compassion? So, for example, like each one of us, when we were little boy or little girl, you have a tremendous affection towards your mother, towards your father. That affection is so pure. And day one you are born, you did not have this affection to your mother. You did not have this affection towards your father. But within the span of 3 years, 4 years' time, you developed intense affection towards your parents. So from zero, it becomes so intense affection. So this is how this, unless you have this seed for this intense affection within you, it cannot possibly come out. So the fact that you are able to demonstrate this intense affection towards your parents, towards your the children, towards your the brother, sister, siblings, so forth, is an indication that you have this the seed of universal compassion. Universal. Just as you feel this towards your mother, if somebody else picked you up, you'll feel the same thing to that person, which means that it is very universal. It's not confined to one person, it's universal. So this universe, the seed of the universal compassion is within us. So this seed is known as the hidden treasure which exists in everyone. Now, each one of us, we have a tremendous responsibility. Oftentimes, it's very sad to see that people, oftentimes, they describe themselves as, I hate myself. I dislike myself. I hate myself. I'm a great failure. I'm a hopeless person. This is where you don't have confidence, conviction in the presence of this hidden treasure within us. If you know that you have the hidden treasure, you will never feel that you are a failure. You will never feel that you're a hopeless person. So, what is the opposite of this universal compassion? Hatred, anger, and exclusivity. So these are the enemies of the universal compassion. So to cultivate the universal compassion, to make this treasure come out, we have to put effort in two ways. One, to mitigate the power, of the negativities, part of the discordant factors which will hamper the growth, the manifestation of this universal compassion. Meanwhile, parallel to that, we need to enrich the concordant factors, conducive factors for germinating the seed of the universal compassion within you. So we need to put effort in two ways. So for this, um, we see that it's so important for us to know very systematically how I have the hope. So if at all you want to describe somebody as a failure or the hopeless and so forth, it is not you. It is the opposite forces of the universal compassion. What are the opposite forces? Anger, your ego, your say your sense of underestimating your potential. These are the negativities which you really need to they feel angry towards, and we need to terminate them. We need to get rid of them. Once these are gotten rid of, if you are a believer in creator God, you will truly be having communion with God. And if you are a believer in the law of karma, and the although you may not believe in creator God, but law of karma and salvation, enlightenment, this is enlightenment, where your compassion just spreads everywhere. It becomes universal, that you don't find any enemy. This is a true salvation. This is a true enlightenment. For those people who don't believe in any religion, any the spirituality, just believe in humanity, for them, have this universal compassion. You see that your immunity just gets boosted, and you become the healthiest person. You become very healthy, mentally very happy. Everybody will come to seek your the counsel. Everyone will come to seek your advice. So this is where the purpose of the life for each of these three groups will be accomplished if you cultivate the universal compassion. The next thing I like to quickly share with you is that now really in real sense, how to really cultivate that universal compassion. This question. So for that, on the say the how to cultivate this universal compassion. This is a very serious question. Oh, so we should be very empirical. For example, let's say that the we let's say that the every morning, each one of us, we used to have breakfast. For the breakfast, we never wait for example, the believers in the creator God. Oh God, please give me breakfast. You sit there, you don't work. No. And those who believe in law of karma, oh karma, please give me food, breakfast. No. And non-believers, oh, they say, I need to have the good breakfast. It not happen. We have to do something. This is known as empirical action. Empirical action. So the compassion, universal compassion, if it is grounded on the rationality of the empiricism of empirical reality, then it can become very the solid. You'll find a solid ground upon which it can germinate. So, what is that rationality which can make you feel that? Just imagine, in this world. Tell me, in this world, where do you feel? Where do you feel somebody feeling this unconditional love? I'm not talking about the universal love for the time being. I'm talking about the unconditional love in this universe, in this world, your life. Where do you see this unconditional love being demonstrated in the most accessible way? If you check that, we see is so. I'm talking about empirical reality. Empirical reality. I'm not talking about okay, the Buddha, God. No, something which you can see, which can see we can see, I'm sure that you will agree with me, is the between the mother and the young child. Mother and young child. That is in unconditional love. The mother feels unconditional love towards the child, and the child feels unconditional love towards the mother. Once in a while, there are some complications where the mother herself, as a little girl, during her childhood, did not receive this love and affection, so she doesn't know how to embrace her own child with this love and affection. Rare cases are there. 1 out of 10,000, 1 out of 100,000. Out of generally speaking, we have received maximum love and affection, unconditional love from your mother. Likewise, a child within a span of 2-3 years' time develops this intense love towards the mother. The question is, how did this happen? From, say, from zero affection to the mother, meaning that you're born, day one you're born, anybody can pick you up. Anybody can pick you up, and then anybody who picks you up is fine for you. Because you don't know. You don't know anyone in this world, including your mother. But how come that you develop this tremendous love in the span of the next 3, 4, 5 years? So the simple reason, I'm sure that you will all agree with me, is that the child started to feel that this mother is a source of benefit for you. I'm dependent on this mother. When when you're hungry, you cry, and the mother comes and feeds you. When you're cold, again you cry, and mother comes and then they cover you up with some warm clothes. Or, or when you're sick, mother cries, and then it does something to give you medication, and then so every time you have a problem, you're dependent. You're so vulnerable, dependent, and who comes? The mother comes or the father comes. So this is how you gradually develop the feeling closeness to the one who is the source of benefit for you, and that you are dependent on that. So interdependency. The moment you see that you are dependent on others, then your mind will flow close to that person. So if you feel that we're all dependent, the whole world, India is dependent on America. America is dependent on India. India is dependent on Russia. Russia is dependent on India. China is dependent on India. India is dependent on China, and so forth, that we're all dependent on each other. For example, how do you know that? Is this something euphoric idea? No, no, it's not. This is the reality. How do we know that? COVID-19 taught us. COVID-19 taught us that we are all dependent. So I'm sure except for the really little ones like age 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you may not have idea of this COVID-19. Otherwise, those people who are 15 plus, you are very clear on the understanding of what is COVID-19, the fear, the feeling of uncertainty that shook the whole world, and with no exception to the high, low, rich, poor, educated, uneducated, male, female, no difference. Everybody's affected. And the same, it taught us that you are all interdependent. This COVID, this tiny virus taught us that we are all interdependent. Just as a child feels a mother as somebody who you depend on so much, the love, affection naturally is developed. Likewise, if we come to discover that we're dependent on all the beings, the vegetation, the trees, the environment, the water, then we'll feel close to them. Affection, universal compassion is developed. So with this, the next question is that this COVID-19 taught us that we are dependent. How? Let me quickly explain this. For example, say India did a great job. India did a great job because with the vaccine, India actually sponsored massive amount of vaccine to the poorer countries. That's amazing great service to the humanity. And so say in this world during the COVID time, if there is one pocket, a small country left there, a poor country left there without the vaccine, and I don't mean to say that a vaccine is, the COVID vaccine is without any controversy. I'm not talking about that. I'm not supporting the vaccine. I'm not demeaning the vaccine. So I'm just sharing. Say if one country is left without the vaccine, without the treatment, even though your country is so well guarded with the proper vaccination and so forth, but you generally speaking, the poorer the country, the gap between rich and poor is immense, so big. Because of the rich people there who are rich, ultra rich. These rich people will keep floating around the world. They will bring the COVID from their country to your country. So then one person can spread, for example, COVID-19. I remember that the first time at the airport, Delhi airport, there are about 19 people, 19 people who were quarantined at the airport, saying that, okay, they are COVID, they COVID positive. So they were quarantined. And from there, it started to spread in India, likewise in other countries. So what I'm saying is that, so there, if one country is not protected, all the other countries, even your country is so well protected. For example, look at Singapore. Singapore was so well protected. But then later, because the people continue to travel, if you stop, if you ban the travels, then your country will not grow, will not the financial grow. So financially go down, you have to depend on others. So for that, you have to have the interaction. With interaction, they also bring the COVID. This is where the COVID, this tiny virus taught us that you are not an independent person. All the whole humanity, we are interdependent. The more we think of, the more we realize the interdependent nature, the more we feel grateful to others, grateful to the environment, grateful to the water bodies, grateful to the trees, grateful to the environment, grateful to the air. We've really started to feel grateful. Grateful meaning feeling closeness. This is known as the universal compassion. So this is where we need to have a thorough study, and the various institutions have a huge responsibility to teach what is known as universal compassion to your children, to the elders in the schools, college, universities, based on the understanding that we are all dependent, that we are not independent. We're not independent. We are dependent on other people, other countries, to the water bodies, to the air, to the planet Earth, to the vegetations, to the forests. So we need to protect all others. So the aspiration to protect others, this comes from the compassion, love, affection. So when it spreads to the everyone, that is known as the universal compassion. In this connection, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, years ago, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, more than His Holiness is for the Buddhas, he is for the world. What he says, he said, his concern, even today, his concern is all about the world. The world should be a better world. World should be, following a universal code of conduct. Otherwise, the world will go downturn, where if the world goes downtown, if the world is destroyed, all the religions destroyed, humanity destroyed, science destroyed, everybody is destroyed. The world must be protected. So for that matter, His Holiness says that more than Buddhism, His Holiness talks about universal ethics, the code of conduct to be adopted by everyone, whether you believer or non-believer, whether you're male or female, whether you are high, low, educated, uneducated, poor, wealthy, it doesn't matter. Everybody, we need to follow up the code of conduct known as universal ethics, which is not confined to one particular religion, but something universally to be adopted, where since childhood to learn what is universal compassion. Compassion is one language where all the religions preach, which even the non-believers should also preach, the value of compassion. So with this in mind, and anybody who is interested in this, there's one program known as the See Learning Today, social, emotional, ethical learning, based on His Holiness the Dalai Lama's the concept of universal ethics for the world, not for the Buddhists, for the whole world. So he's more concerned about the world than he's concerned over the Buddhists or Buddhism. So he's more concerned about the world. So the world should adopt what is known as universal ethics. So with this in mind, anybody who's interested, just feel free to Google search what is known as See Learning. This is a very secular context, the context to which anybody universally can adopt. And then you see that you're a happy person. You can spread this message of happiness to your family members, and then the whole world can feel the oneness. This is what is known as the Vasudevam Kutumbakam. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We thank Venerable Geshe Dorji Damdul for sharing his wisdom with all of us this morning. We request all students to assemble